Well, things are clearer right now. So, as you said, the former minister was arrested first, not for his duty as a minister of Bolsonaro, but as a secretary of public security in the city of Brasilia. But the things are well connected. So he was also in Orlando, in the United States. He was in the same city of Mr. Bolsonaro. And the federal police in Brazil found out that they had a meeting when they were there together in the same city. So there are some suspicions that they articulated some leadership of these riots that we saw that took place in Brazil recently. This is the first thing to be clear right now. That there is some leadership in what's appeared at the first place as a leaderless movement. And another thing is the role that the Supreme Court has played in all of this. No, so he at least abode by the law, and he turned from the United States and was arrested when he arrived in Brasilia. And it shows the force of the federal police in Brazil and the Supreme Court. So Bolsonaro tried during his whole tenure to weaken the Supreme Court in Brazil, but the Supreme Court and the federal police are independent institutions and are stronger than ever.
And what about Bolsonaro himself? What will he do? Do you expect him to return to Brazil? And if he does, what will happen to him?
Well, Bolsonaro's stay in the U.S. Has become a liability for Biden's administration. There are representatives in the U.S. Congress asking for Bolsonaro to leave or for visa status to be removed. So I think he will have to decide very quickly. And it's a political discussion to be held in the highest level with President Lula and President Biden. But it's clear that Bolsonaro will have to come back in a moment because he was also planning to go to Italy, as rumor has it. But the Italian parliament has also decried this possibility. So the only alternative he has is to come back to Brazil sometime.
And there's at the moment there are no charges against him, but there is, I understand it, an investigation. What is that focusing on? Because he's always denied that he's incited any violence, but he also refused to accept the result of the election, didn't he?
Exactly. So the investigation is broad right now. So Alexandre de Moraes is a super minister of the Brazilian Supreme Court right now. We are living in a time of exception here in Brazil. Not necessarily it was declared a state of exception, but de facto it is an extraordinary moment. And this minister of the Supreme Court has taken some extraordinary moves, like inserting Bolsonaro within this investigation. So it's a very dangerous moment for Bolsonaro, and he has to think carefully what will be the next move. I think the best thing to do is to come back to Brazil and to accept the authority of the three branches of power, because it's clear that the institutions worked pretty fine in Brazil. Even in the economy, if you see the stock markets and exchange rates, they reacted pretty well after these riots. So everyone agrees that Brazil is moving on, and the new administration has already begun.
You said it's a dangerous moment for Bolsonaro. What are the risks for Lula in how he handles not just what happens to his predecessor, but also the aftermath of all this?
Well, Lula said today that he doesn't trust the military anymore. So it's a kind of message he's giving. It's important for the military to regain this trust. It has to rebuild these ties, because Lula is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So, but the danger for Lula is much more if riots keep occurring throughout his administration. That's why the institutions are acting very swiftly and with resolve at this moment. But I think that the silver lining is that most of the institutions have decried what happened in Brazil. Most of the Brazilian people, according to the latest polls, also decried what happened in Brazil this last Sunday. So Brazil is kind of unified, and the extremists are isolated right now.
Felippe Ramos, thank you very much indeed for your analysis. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Peru's president has apologized for the death